Hello and welcome to my smartphone test. Here I'm going to be comparing two handsets here. Basically I just want to compare the performance of a newer device shown here by the Karbonn Titanium S5. Here we have the box against my LG Optimus 4X. The phone here, the XDA Stellar or HTC Titan 2, is just here on display just to basically show the size of the two devices. And as this is a previous gen smartphone and we're not really interested in this, we're going to put this to one side and let these two take center stage. Now, like I said, the whole point of this test is to compare performance of these two devices. So if you've ever brought a smartphone from India or China, as this model is from India and is not available here in the UK, and are wondering how it compares against something more mainstream or well known, which is why we have my LG Optimus 4X. To give a brief introduction on the two devices, we have the Karbonn Titanium S5. It's running a Qualcomm Snapdragon MSM 8225Q quad-core processor at 1.2 GHz. It's running 1 GB of RAM, an Adreno 203 GPU. It has 4 GB of storage, and all that is displayed on a 5-inch IPS LCD screen at 540 by 960 with a pixel density of 220 ppi. Compare this with the LG Optimus 4X. It too is running a quad-core CPU, the NVIDIA Tegra 3, clocked at 1.5 GHz, again runs 1 GB of RAM. This has 16 GB of storage, and it's all displayed on a 4.7-inch IPS LCD with a true HD res of 720 by 1280, but this also has a pixel density of 312 ppi. Both these devices are running Jelly Bean 4.1.2. Other differences extend to the back here. The Karbonn, as we see here, has 2 SIM card slots, one of which has one doesn't, a micro SD card slot, the 8 megapixel camera, and LED flash, but there is no NFC or anything. The Optimus 4X has 1 SIM slot, 1 micro SD card slot, 8 megapixel camera, and LED flash. The two gold contacts here you see by the SIM are for the NFC tag, which you can see on the back cover. The back cover for the Karbonn is just plastic and just sticks on the back. But now we want to get to the nitty-gritty and see just how they perform against each other. So let's see what happens when we fire them up. You can see the Karbonn loads first. Just followed shortly by the LG. Just scrolling through the menus. See, there was just a bit of lag when it was first booted up. But now you can scroll through the menus and it's buttery smooth, as you would expect. The LG again, buttery smooth and quick, and no lag through the menus. Let's see if we can zoom in and just show the icons. As you can see, both the screens are displaying rather nicely. Just want to exit the browser there. You might be able to see slight jagged icons around there due to the pixel density not being as high as the Optimus 4X. There you go, showing the internet icon there. I'll just bring that onto my screen there. But now what we want to do is just zoom out and load up a quadrant test. I don't know why it errored there. But just to also make a point, is that the LG is running slightly different to stock. It's running the Optimus Prime 2.7 kernel, whereas the Karbonn is running stock out of the box as we received it. Both screens are running at about 30% brightness. You can see on this first run, the LG gets 5305. So the CPU and memory is roughly about the same as the 1X, as you would expect, as they share the same hardware. But the one we are interested in here is this, the Karbonn. Now the device shows a 4305. Now CPU is just less than the HTC One X there, but the memory bar seems to be just a bit lower there. So what we'll just do is we'll just give them another run. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start the Karbonn first, because the LG always finishes sooner. This time we get 4216 on the Karbonn and 5141 on the LG. What we also want to do is just see how they compare with an Antutu benchmark. As you can see, I've run it before on my LG with a score of 15426. What I'm going to do is start the LG first. As for some reason, when running Antutu on both these devices, it's the Karbonn that finishes first rather than the LG, whereas on Quadrant it's always the LG that finishes first and not the Karbonn. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to pause it here. I'm just going to resume it when they hit the graphics tests. Okay, so now we can see that even though the Karbonn was started later, it is now caught up to the LG in this benchmark test. You can see in this OpenGL test that the LG looks smoother, whereas the Karbonn is a bit jerky. There we have both devices now done. Now the LG gets 15701 just there. Again, it's comparable to the S3, Nexus 4 and the One X, whereas the Karbonn gets 11162, which puts it roughly on par with the Galaxy S2, showing it to be significantly slower than the HTC One X, Nexus 4 and the S3. So if you're talking benchmarking, you can roughly expect to see about 11,000 marks on the Karbonn and about 15,000 marks on Antutu, whereas with Quadrant you'll roughly see about 5,000 with the Optimus 4X and about 4.5 or around the 4,000-ish mark with the Karbonn. But of course benchmarks don't always tell the whole story. What we also want to do is just see how they perform with a video test. So what I'm just going to do is load up a video. I'm going to load up Wreck-It Ralph in HD. As you can see there, it is now playing flawlessly on the LG, where you can flick through the movie without any lag. Now to just load it up on the Karbonn, might help if I turned on the screen rotation. Now I should also point out that the audio is playing from the Karbonn as well. I'm just going to do is pause it on the LG. Now you can see there that the video seems to be playing jerky on the Karbonn. Now this could be because it is a HD movie, and because the Karbonn doesn't support HD on the screen, that could be why it's jerky. So what we'll do is load up another movie. I've got Iron Man in standard def, which I shall now load up. So we can see there that with the Karbonn, the movie is now playing, and you can scroll through the movie pretty flawlessly, and it doesn't actually look too bad on the screen either. Just to demonstrate the viewing angles there as well. Yep, so it doesn't look too bad on either device. So standard movies will work, but HD movies won't. Now one other thing I've also noticed functionality wise when using it is if you go into the task manager, whereas with the LG or other ROMs you have a clear all button to clear any recently used apps, and you also have access to a task manager, whereas there doesn't appear to be a clear all button on the Karbonn. You have to swipe each one, and there doesn't appear to be a built-in task manager either. There is no media streaming or DLNA on the Karbonn, although you may be able to get around that by an app. Whereas here on the LG, we can just go into Smart Share and just say I wanted to watch some Dragon Ball Z, and there we have it. That is streaming from my home media server. Another thing is that the Karbonn does not support the 5 GHz band on Wi-Fi, whereas the LG is dual band. It works on 2.4 or 5 gigabytes. But anyway, those are the differences I've noted so far. Thank you for watching and hope it's helped.